Hello. In 1980, Robert Redford founded the Sundance Institute in order to provide a workshop to encourage and develop independent filmmaking in America. Redford felt the Hollywood industry was getting narrower, and he wanted to help make room for more small-scale films telling human stories. The annual workshop is aimed at filmmakers who have some experience as a screenwriter or director, but who are not yet established professionally. It gives them a chance to experiment with their scripts under the supervision of more experienced colleagues from the mainstream industry. Sundance is a non-profit organization. The professionals give their services free. The new filmmakers don't pay to go there. It doesn't produce films itself, but puts filmmakers in touch with backers and distributors, and many of the screenplays which have been through Sundance do eventually go into production. The best known include Desert Bloom, the Latin American El Norte, and more recently, Promised Land. In the 8 years since Robert Redford founded the Institute, it's expanded to cover the full range of the arts. But our film concentrates on the Film and Screenwriters Workshop. That takes place on Redford's home ground at Sundance in the Utah Rockies. In winter, Sundance is a beautiful and highly exclusive ski resort. But every summer, it's taken over by filmmakers who come there to improve their craft through practice and discussion with actors, technicians, directors and writers from the mainstream film community, but in an environment which is a far cry from Hollywood.
Sundance was initially set up to protect the canyon. I could see that development was becoming rampant, so I decided to buy up land to protect the land that was going to be around myself and my family. And that led to the acquisition of Sundance at large, which is 4,000 acres and really constitutes this whole canyon. How do you take an area this beautiful by keeping its beauty as pristine as possible, but still pay for it? That kind of gave me an idea that maybe a good use of Sundance would be to create a workplace for development of skills of independent filmmakers so their product could get better. It would keep us away from this creeping danger in our industry, which was things were getting more centralized and costly. So the costs were going up, the choices were getting narrowed, and distribution was advancing. So it was a fairly grim future. Not that I thought I was going to do anything to change it overnight, but it was at least something. That was the beginnings of the Sundance Arts program.
That probably what we've learned most is that we need to fill a place in this country for the interim artist, the person who is not in college, not in school, and who is not an established professional. There's really not much of a community in this country for an artist, a writer, a director, composer who's been out in the world a while making a living, but who really still has an interest in working in motion pictures or other art forms.
There is no Sundance project as such. It can be anything that really is concerned with human values, and that hopefully will give the filmmaker a chance to produce the film that mainstream business would not be interested because they're too small or they're too topical or whatever. And at the same time, we are trying to look for projects that have a chance to be seen by as many viewers as possible. We are not making art movies just for personal expression or whatever. It's trying to find strong human stories.
The annual Sundance Film Workshop gives new filmmakers the opportunity to work with professionals from the mainstream industry. David Putnam has been coming to Sundance since it started in 1981.
Low-budget filmmakers and independent filmmakers generally have a tougher time in many ways in the United States than they do in this country and in Europe generally. Outside of American Playhouse, Lindsay Law's organization in New York, there is nowhere really to go for a strictly low-budget film. You can go to HBO or to the other cable channels, but they look for a more commercial, a more obviously commercial product. Obviously the networks do. So a genuinely independent filmmaker wanting to make a film that is difficult, a difficult subject, has a hard time. Sundance can help him by, in one respect, legitimizing him in the eyes of the studios by having the en premiere of Redford, Sundance, and the people, the resource people who have helped the creation of the project. And also, frankly, from the point of view of just generally encouraging and allowing that filmmaker to believe that his project isn't just a kind of will o' the wisp or whimsical thing, but in fact something that has something about it and which other professionals are prepared to take seriously.
Yeah, actually what we're going to do, Jimmy, is that you're going to...
14 new filmmakers were invited to Sundance last year. One of them was Bill Morgan, whose first film was a documentary about an LA rock band. He's now co-written a feature film, which he's brought to Sundance to gain experience working with actors.
Yeah, right, exactly. I was really interested in the whole process here at Sundance because there didn't seem to be anything like it in the world. You know, there was something that wasn't a film school and it was not a production company, but you know, it's a laboratory where you can really experiment and work the material and find out, you know, find out what makes it tick. And you can work with actors for what I really wanted to get out of it was being able to work with actors for the camera and how to express the overall idea of the script at every point throughout the film.
Oh, I was going to be up in it, no?
Oh, I thought we were going to start from opening this thing up.
That's right, yeah.
Not every script here is in production. Benedict Fitzgerald is a writer whose first script was Wise Blood, directed by John Huston. The script he's brought to Sundance is an adaptation of the prize-winning novel Kate Vaden. Fitzgerald isn't directing his script, he's here to discuss it with some of Hollywood's veteran screenwriters.
The only thing I know about the process is that I'll be working individually on a one-to-one basis with each one of these people, these screenwriters, these venerable screenwriters, and one in the morning, one in the afternoon. So I hope I'll have time after each one of these meetings to write down or to record my notes or my thoughts on the conversation in between and see what I can do with what comes out of all that.
Excuse me! I have some announcements to make. We would like to officially welcome all of the participants of our Screenwriters Conference this last week.
I'll be working with Ring Lardner, Jr., who's somebody I admire tremendously, and Abe Polanski. That I'm looking forward to. Julius Epstein is here, who, with his brother, wrote Casablanca, one of the great melodramatic stories ever told on film.
You mean they're scabbing now?
No.
I arrived in Los Angeles October 14th, 10:30 at night. Midnight, I was writing. They had to turn in material Monday, and this was Friday. I know nothing about screenwriting. Sunday, they took me into Hollywood, into Los Angeles, to one of those gigantic movie houses they had in those days, called the Paramount Theater. And I remember a Bing Crosby picture was playing. I think it was called College Humor. Down the Old Ox Road was a big hit song from the. And they pointed out to me, that's a dissolve, that's a cut, that's all the technical things for a script. I got a 4-year film school education in one afternoon. So I can appreciate what this means to the young writers coming up today, to have a place like Sundance where they can have their work criticized and learn an awful lot.
The benefit is that you have a chance to talk about your story, like writers always like to do at some point after they finished it, with people who know something about it. I mean, this is the better part. I'm not talking about getting a picture made. This is the intellectual part, the aesthetic part. In the old studio system, you know, when they had every major studio would have a building with 30 to 50 writers in it, and they have secretaries and offices and so on. Well, they're doing that automatically all the time. They go into each other's offices. They know everybody, what everybody's doing. You get stuck, you go and talk. Well, you don't have that nowadays.
When we get the script and then each of us reads it, we can, in very short period of time, 10, 15 minutes, agree upon the sore spots and then problems. That's easy. But then we come with the suggestions, how to change it. And there we disagree 100% because that's art. There, you just can give a suggestion, the writer should pick it up. There is no prescribed solution of the problem. So that's where the writers or directors as well are bombarded from all the resource people with possible alternatives, possibilities, suggestions, and they have to sort it out.
What are the actual family relations of all the people in this story?
That's one of the things, one of the very specific things that Ring brought up this morning. And
I don't feel that we, in this script, have found out enough about Douglas's background.
You're just stuck on this thing.
I know. The story of Kate is really a story which is universal. People who first read it think it's a small regional story in the South, North Carolina, during the 30s and 40s, about an extraordinary girl. But in fact, it's about orphanness. This is really the story of somebody who, by the time she's 16 and has a child of her own, has the impression that everything or everyone that she comes in contact with dies. And inevitably feels as though she's responsible. Very sad. Well, I mean, she would never put it that way, or not quite as strongly as that, but she does to her own child, towards the end of the picture, what her parents did to her. She abandons it. They died, and she leaves. And I've used that as a sort of a frame.
I love you. Remember that, Lee. Always remember that, please. I'm leaving you and I'm scared. The only girl I've read about who went on her own was Joan of Arc, and they killed her. So I'm a little scared now. But there's a good reason I'm going, and that makes me feel better about what I'm doing. The one thing I care about in the world is you. And I'm not going to let things happen to you because I'm there, so I have to leave. When you get grown, maybe you'll understand. Things turned on me. I was a little girl when they did, and they kept turning. And then you came along and I thought, maybe now things will quit turning. But they didn't.
Bill Morgan's script, A Matter of Degrees, is a campus movie, but Morgan wants to use the comedy and characters to make some serious points.
I had a sense that after 8 years of the Reagan administration that people were ready for a change, and that's really what this script is about. It's about college students who are looking for more out of life than just a career and self-advancement, and are looking to involve themselves more in the world. And this one particular character, the lead character, he expresses his dissatisfaction through looking back at what he considers to be the golden age of the 60s.
When does he become a child of the 60s? When does that happen? You can't see, to me, it seems like Max is confused through the entire script. I mean, what do you want the audience to get by seeing this film? I mean, what is it that you want them to walk away with feeling?
Mm-hmm.
Because right now it's confused.
Bill Morgan's work was talented. But how good is he at doing scenes that have to play out? How good is he at relationships that have to play themselves out, that have to build, have to have dramatic value and content and will affect us emotionally. No one knew because it wasn't in his other film. So the idea was to bring him here and to focus on that aspect.
To sort of get us into it, why don't we just read this scene?
Yeah, well, you've got 3 different scenes here. It's going to be strange stringing them together.
Well, we may end up, doing something similar to what we did the other day.
Shooting
where
In this scene, the lead character, Max, and his friend Zeno are standing at the foot of a bridge. Zeno climbs to the top, while Max, currently obsessed with his new girlfriend Isabel, insists on staying on the ground.
Come on, we got to climb up from the other side.
Oh, no, I'm not.
Don't worry,
I'm
you're
not
gonna
going up
fall.
there.
You're not going to fall, Max.
You know, Zeno, I'm afraid of heights.
All right, wait here then. Rock, and roll.
Later.
Yeah. Now another scene.
Later.
Yeah, another scene. Cut, okay.
Max, I got nothing against Isabel, but come on, be real.
No, I don't want to talk about it anymore.
What do you mean you don't want to talk about it? She's all you've been talking about.
Well, she's the most important thing in my life right now.
How can you say that? You've known this woman maybe more a week.
We made love.
You slept with her once, Max.
Don't trivialize it, Zeno.
All right, you're fucking up, Max. You're not even going to graduate.
Well, I've got my priorities.
What are they?
Isabel. You don't understand, Zeno. You just go from one girl to the next. I want to settle down.
All right, let's talk about this a little bit. What's going on here? What are you trying to do for Max right now?
I have no idea.
We've got to clarify what the hell we want to say.
Good place to start.
A good actor has a good ear. A good actor has a good eye. And any director would be a fool not to tap into that, not to use that. So what we try to do here is to bring the actors and the directors together so that there won't be that intimidation, so they get comfortable. And let the actor take your script and read it through and say, I don't get this, I don't hear it, this doesn't hit my ear right, or it's too many words, you've written too many words, what are you afraid of? And not have the director run home to his mommy, you know, and say, and tough it out and work through a very valuable part of the process. Next to script, I think it is the most valuable part of the process.
As this scene started out, it was largely dialogue. And much of what we've basically taken one small section of the scene and made that the entire scene, which is the section is climbing the bridge. You know, and in the script, it happens off camera. They have dialogue before they come up to the bridge, and they have dialogue afterwards. You know, but you're missing the key action, which shows their relationship.
Yeah, which I think makes sense.
So we tried an improv, and what came out of the improv was that you see Max's trust in his friend Zeno, where he would literally follow him anywhere, even to the top of this bridge.
Want to go up to the top? Come on, we climb up on the other side.
No.
Come on, don't worry.
No. I'm gonna wait right. Zeno, you know I'm afraid of heights. I'm no way you're gonna get me up there.
You sure?
I'll wait right here.
I think maybe you might be able to do something about your fear of heights. Maybe if you just climb to the top there.
All right.
It's all right.
No. All right, let's go.
You want to go?
Let's go.
All right, I'll follow you up. I won't
No,
let you fall.
I'll follow you up.
No. I'll follow right behind you. I won't let you fall, okay?
All right. Let's go.
You doing all right?
No. I'll wait.
I'm right behind you.
I'm
not gonna
fine.
Fall.
I'm fine.
Okay, it's just a little more ways to go. Look at this. It's like
The altitude's changing. I can't breathe.
Come on.
All right. Max! How are we gonna get down?
All right, just follow me down. Get in the car and go home.
Yeah, let's get on here. That was fun, Zeno. Thanks.
Great.
That's what the scene's about.
That's what the scene's about.
It's over one hump now.
Right.
It's given Max it's not only dissipated a lot of the, it's gotten him out of his own head,
but it also has done something else, and that's that it's once again brought them together closer again. And secondly, it's given him a perspective about the Isabel problem.
Right, exactly.
You know, because it gives you perspective in life. You know, it gives him perspective on his own life.
Isabel is easier to deal with if you can deal with.
If you can climb to the top of the bridge and deal with that, then you can figure
out a way to deal with Isabel.
Do you think that Max would really go home to his parents? Here is we sit down and we talk about it, and as you see things get done, changes are made. I think that's really important. The director is very flexible here, and of course it's not a $5–10 million movie. It's Sundance, as we say. It's Sundance, so we can afford to mess around with it. And I really think it's important because so many times you have scripts that are being made that they're trash, and they have incredible possibilities, but nobody takes the time or the effort to actually go through them and fine-tune them, and this definitely needs that. It's a nice luxury to have.
I think most pictures are a collaboration of many crafts and talents, yet many critics talk as if the director were the sole or main creator. I've had the experience of working with Robert Altman on MASH, who is a director who does create a good deal on the set, and like sometimes for the actors to improvise. The one time I went on the set during the making of that picture, Bob saw me approaching and called out, "Hey, somebody find the script right away, here comes the writer."
I'm really looking forward to this. I'm going to be meeting Ring Lardner, Jr. He is a legendary screenwriter. He's done some wonderful work, MASH and Woman of the Year. I would like him to tell me how I could turn Kate into Kate of the Year.
It's apparently still the morning, I guess, because...
it's midday.
Well, you said they arrived back from the funeral, and it's still early morning.
Early morning,
spring.
yeah. That's true, that's true.
So I'm a little confused about their going to bed at this.
Oh, I think I made that was my mistake there. I meant it to be sort of noon.
That Francis is just worn out.
Lunch, yeah.
When Swift comes into that room, you say that both adults ignore Kate. This is a bit strange for Frances to
behave this way.
Behave this way.
Oh yeah.
She would be aware of her daughter's presence and behave accordingly, but Frances is not. And since we never know enough about Frances, we don't really understand why she behaves this way in front of her daughter.
I mean, I agree with that. But she started behaving oddly the minute they stepped off the train. That was the effect I was trying to evoke.
I think the effect that you do create by the combination of her behavior with Swift in the room with the casket and this is not only of a woman so mesmerized by a man, but of a woman who is who just doesn't care about
Kate.
The impression she creates, and particularly on her daughter.
In other words, her behavior with Kate should either change or be fully explained, I think.
Yeah. On page 53 here,
I think what was most interesting to me about Ring Lardner's session was what confused him about how I had structured the screenplay. And his advice was essentially one that would have changed what I've done to a much more conventional screenplay. My feelings, as you probably could tell, I think you were there for part of the time, were that it's a different movie. To do that would be a different movie. And in every story, there are many, many stories, tangential stories. And to focus in on one of the tangents may distract from what I want to do.
I was questioning the validity of the frame, which consists of this 16-year-old girl saying goodbye to her baby and explaining why she is going to never see the child again. I was questioning whether this really is justified by the story and whether an audience would either sympathize with or, even more important, understand why she was doing this. And if that doesn't work, of course, the whole picture would fall apart.
The theme of commitment and then loss, this is quite universal and can really work. But it's still too close to the novel. Everybody thinks that adaptation is easier than original story. In many ways, it's more difficult. Narrative story, novel or short story, has happened. And that's why they are written in past tense. And there's a narrator who knows the outcome, and you know that he knows it, because otherwise he wouldn't tell you. So you are looking backwards, and you expect that at an appropriate moment, the narrator will tell you. Film happens in a totally different way. Scripts are written in present time, and the story will happen. So you have to turn your head in a different direction. And so you can see in the adaptations that there are crutches, there are voices over, because they didn't yet, divorce themselves from the narration, and then they believe that only voiceover can help it.
You'll be safe from me as long as I live. I'm never coming back here, and I'm never going to see you again, and you'll never see me again. That's a promise, darling, one I mean to keep. This letter is all you get to know about me and the times I was happy, and what happened that made things turn.
The back-to-nature atmosphere of the Sundance Film Workshop led in the early days to a crop of homespun regional films. Some critics felt the subject matter was too limited and were suspicious of the Institute's intentions.
One of the things we have to fight, aside from misperceptions about what we are we a camp of insurgents ready to make an armed assault on the decadent industry of Hollywood? No. The press's interest in this is a dubious deal, because it is trying to do something good. Like, unfortunately, human nature doesn't handle that very well. So if you try to do something good, there must be something wrong. So there's a pervasive cynicism that I feel from time to time about why are they doing this, what's really going on there, and so we become targets at a time where I think that's unfortunate, because one of the things we need to do is to fail. We need to be able to make mistakes. We need to stay rough. This should never be very refined. The moment it gets too refined, too big, too slick, it's over.
There was a tendency when the Institute started to focus almost exclusively on smaller regional stories. The farmer's wife who almost loses the wheat farm or whatever. I think that the range this year ranges from smaller personal dramas to fairly broad physical comedies, more specialized films, and more broadly commercial pictures, and a whole range of genres in the middle. And I think that what we're trying to do is to continue to make that range wider and wider, and to take chances on more and more unusual projects.
Andy Anderson is an example of the wider range of filmmakers at the workshop. He's brought to Sundance a comedy thriller, and a healthy mix of irreverence and appreciation for what the Institute has to offer.
I don't go outside unless my house is on fire. And this is terrifying to me, to be out in nature where there are live animals. Outside is for animals, inside is for people. It works out better that way. I don't bother them, they don't bother me. And so seeing live animals walking around out here is kind of scary. Seeing some of the other filmmakers is pretty terrifying too. It's kind of, you know, like the film school meets Outward Bound meets the Marine Corps. There's a constant thing here about not competing, yet it's impossible to avoid the competition. Everybody here intimidates me. People who come here to change the sheets, I'm terrified of those people because they're at Sundance. So there's an intimidation factor, but also I think that part of the problem is that the resource people that come and talk to you are extremely experienced and well-known. And you wind up hearing different things from them. Well, at first you process all this information, it makes you into schizophrenic, it makes you into a crazy person, because you want to direct this style and then that style, and you want to rehearse this way and then that way, you know.
We could be doing anything.
You could be doing anything, because it's not the...
I could be playing
we don't care about the plot
cards,
line at this point,
right,
you know.
Right.
All we're going to care about is how to get into it.
What do you...
But then, part of that frustration and all that is actually becoming confident in yourself and your own work. Get right back on it. Because if there's a pause there, the joke gets even worse.
That's true.
It probably wouldn't be difficult for me to get this film made, but it would be difficult for me to make it as well had I not come here. I spent an hour talking with Alan Alda, and it was wonderful. He had read the script and read it very carefully and had a couple of pages of notes. Now, had I come and knocked on his door, you know, and said, "Excuse me, Mr. All, would you read my script?" It wouldn't have happened, but it happened here. And so, again, that's another one of those things that's so worthwhile here. But mainly, it's helped me learn to be adaptable and be flexible and do a lot of things, but don't sacrifice what hits the screen. You know, make compromises, but don't compromise what hits the screen. I just learned that yesterday.
It's really hot. Oh, don't go to the sun? Oh, yeah. Well, that's good. It looks like he's up there pretty high. But, you know, what I'm trying to do with this is I'm trying to make all this come out through the action, not through a lot of dialogue and not through a lot of moments. You know, it's like I'm trying to make it, give them good action to do these things.
And so you have clear your moments when you will say that?
Yeah.
Rolling.
Action.
That's 3-inch cable there. Couldn't tear this down if you wanted to.
Yeah, but they don't make them like that anymore.
Okay, cut. Well, I think it's a matter of turning things that are implicit to things that are explicit. And you need to do that through something physical. You know, I mean, it's not as effective as somebody says, "Oh, Zeno, I trust you very much," you know, or something like that. Or if they have a quiet moment together, it doesn't really come out quite as strongly as them having to overcome some obstacle together.
Zeno, I'm afraid of heights. I am not.
Trust me, Max. I'm right here.
Zeno,
all right?
stop it.
You're
I'm
not gonna
not.
fall. Put your left foot up the next rung. Come on. You got it.
I
You
hate
got no
this,
problems.
Zeno.
Max, you got no problems. Okay, next one. Let's go.
I can't look down.
Come on. So don't look down. Look straight
There's no
ahead.
place to put my hands.
Just look.
There's no place to put my hands.
Bring up the right foot.
But the next moment is when they get up to the top. Zeno is like another step in this. Like he gets him to scream, you know, scream out his voice.
I can't breathe.
Open your mouth and suck air, Max. Now open your eyes and look out. It's beautiful out here. Here, listen. You hear that? The river like that, so low, and that's banks on the sides are so steep with the buildings like that. Bounces all the way up.
Nice.
You can hear it all the way up in Fall River. Give it a
Nice,
try.
man.
Come on, try it. Take a deep breath. Stand up straight. Ready? On 3. 1, 2, 3. Max! Here we go.
It's up there! Oh, look. Look, there's WJM. There's the antenna for the radio station. And there's Babes. and Mrs. Carlucci's. Ha! It's nice up here, you know. I kind of like it up here. Oh.
Only 40 setups today, Luis.
Only? That's slow.
The whole shooting served as a test for Bill himself, because the problem of the script is focusing. It's knowing what the gist, well, the essence of the script is. And the same thing was a problem when he started shooting the scenes. What is the event in the center of the scene? What is the story action line? Whose scene is it? These questions he never addressed. And so here he got a chance to x-ray those, and I think he has learned the lesson, and you saw the last scene, which I think is really lovely and shows the progress in 3 weeks.
Zeno, no, I'm afraid of heights. I told you that. Max? No, I'm coming down. Max. I'm coming. What are you doing? You're trying to fuck me.
Okay, then you cut in between to make it more tense.
Yeah, sure.
Zeno,
between his feet and their hands.
Yeah, we got some insert shots too.
No way, you know.
That's
one particular lesson that Frank Danielle had mentioned to me at one point that I really took to heart, I think, in that final scene was a sort of contempt for master shots. It's really sort of a lazy form of filmmaking. So I tried to construct the shooting of that whole scene in particular moments, you know, and tried to plan the camera, you know, the placement of the camera so that I could make the most of the actors. You know, I knew where the camera needed to be, and I knew what I needed to get out of that particular shot. And that helped me a lot, because you have to always be specific and concrete.
Got air? 3.
Max! My only role here is to make you make your own suggestions. I'm not here to tell you how to write the story or write it for you. I understand that the role of someone who thinks they know more is to be very sure they don't tell everybody about it. But in your case, because you're super educated, I may talk to you. In any event,
Overeducated and underwritten. And underwritten as...
Well, the text is underwritten, they say, although I don't think so.
I don't think
But
so
I think
either.
some things should be made a little clearer. Yeah. All right, now I want to take up 3 points in the story, which I think we should just talk about. One is the general atmosphere of randomness, arbitrariness and randomness in the nature of events. And that is the way life really is.
Principle of uncertainty.
Well, if you want to show me that you know a little bit about modern logic, it's okay with me.
No.
Or quantum theory, it's okay with me. But just remember that I'm educated in it. So you don't want to waste your time. All right? Okay. All right.
I withdraw the suggestion.
Withdraw the suggestion. All right. The other thing is that, so that is a very effective narrative device.
Yeah.
But randomness only can exist as randomness without creating chaos, as you know, if there are certainties of order around. Now, the certainties of order is where you got to get clearer. The general effect of your story, and most people, it was kind of chaotic.
It may be that in doing this draft, I was probably trying too hard not to spell anything out.
Well, you succeeded.
I know.
But that's all right. It creates an atmosphere.
Yeah.
But a little more motivation would help.
I agree, but
obvious motivation, just a little bit, not a lot. Because there's real psychology, about which we know very little, but something, and there's literary psychology, about which we know a whole lot because of all the books we read, which has nothing to do with psychology.
That's true.
It has to do with the kind of conventions that people want in storytelling. In literary psychology, as opposed to real psychology, in literary psychology, they would have someone like Swift, or someone make some kind of oppressive move toward the girl.
Well, that's what we talked about.
And she would flee, you see. And in telling a story for the motion pictures, maybe he even did it in the book, that's an acceptable reason for fleeing.
Yeah.
But just to flee because you're oppressed in general by an atmosphere.
Is not good enough.
Well, it's not good enough for literary psychology, and not good enough for Hollywood storytelling. Let me tell you that right off the bat. You see? Another point, yours is a story that depends a lot on silences, and how people look at each other, and the places they go. And of course, you can't read that in the text. You got to be very sensitive to the story.
Yeah.
The tendency is to read the plot.
Yeah.
You see, and your story is in the fundamental kind of way plotless.
Yeah.
It has events, but it has no plot. Because what it has is a deep narrative story about a child who starts to feel that she brings tragedy into other people's lives, especially if she loves them.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of a story it is. That's its charm. To turn it into a conventional story of who did what to whom is a pain in the neck.
As the Sundance workshop begins to wind down, the filmmakers at last have the chance to assess the experience and decide how best to put it to use as they rewrite their screenplays.
I feel the same way I feel after a Chinese banquet, which lasts 18 hours. One meal and one dish after another. And some are small and some are large, but you really are quite sated and blunt. And after such a meal. And that's the way I feel. I mean, every hour on the hour, I find myself sort of pausing and going into some kind of a trance and thinking about one specific point that was brought up and how that might change the entire film. Abe put it best when he said, you're expecting fireworks. And you get a lot of matches being lit, or candles, which isn't the same thing. And so that, I think, would be the strongest impression that I came away with, that I need to find some way of creating pressure in the dramatic structure of the story.
I think we discovered that we were being a little too subtle, that a lot of things that we were getting as writers, out of the script, or I was imagining in my head as a director, were not coming across on the page. And furthermore, they weren't playing out in the scenes, which is more importantly. I mean, when you brought in real actors and, they were forced to deal with these real situations and say these real lines, it changed everything. And this is like an incredible opportunity that you really never get in a film. You usually have to find that out, through the hard way.
Bill Morgan must assimilate his experience very quickly. With backing already in place, he and his producers must have the screenplay For a Matter of Degrees ready to shoot in a couple of months.
What is your schedule?
Michelle Satter, director of the Sundance feature film program, is the person who will follow the script through with Bill into production.
You guys have to promise me something.
I've already heard this, but you can go ahead.
Yeah, that you don't go into production till the script is really the best it can be. You really don't. It's not worth it. Even with, if you push it back 2 weeks or whatever you need to do, because otherwise you're going with half, you're going into it with half a recipe. But if I've seen it happen too many times. The ball starts rolling, and all of a sudden you're in production, and
the script's
not right. And the script, and you can't change a script while you're shooting. I mean, obviously, you can rewrite dialogue.
Too many examples of.
It's too hard. You're working on this, really small budget. The pre-production period is really important, and you've got to take, in addition to the screenplay, which to me is the root of the piece. It's the work, the rehearsal with the actors, and and just having everything going for you. I feel so strongly about it, and I feel much more strongly about it because I really like this material. It has it, and it can work, but you've got to push it. And really fulfill what it can be. And then lots of things will go wrong anyway.
Yes, but at least you're starting from a better place.
At least you're starting from a really good place, a solid place, and that's really important.
Yeah. We're sort of pursuing this on two levels. The real grassroots. This is what we got, and be poor but honest, and then to see if we can get some attention from a distributor.
Yeah, if you need help in that area, we have a lot of contacts. And I'll be happy to help.
How does that work exactly? I mean,
I feel like Sundance becomes, or I become a partner to whoever's doing that.
Okay.
So it's either me calling up whether it be Cinecom or Ryan Classics or any of those companies, and and talking up the script and sending the script out. It's where I have stronger contacts, I go for that. Where you have stronger contacts, I can call and and pitch the project. The spin or the momentum off of Sundance can help a project.
What we do here is we support the filmmaker, not the film. The idea is to give independence to that, to preserve the independence of that filmmaker. That's why it took Hollywood a long time to figure out what we were doing here. It was the hardest place in the world for me to raise money was in my own industry because of the suspicion. But to me, what is the most important thing is to have that filmmaker's ability to remain independent intact, which means they can come out of here and then go to Paramount or Universal or Columbia or wherever they want to go. Or they can go to private financing, that they have that option. They're not forced to go here or forced to go there.
They're educating a whole generation of filmmakers, is my feeling, and being encouraged to, to express a vision, express a point of view, while at the same time taking heed of the classic storytelling techniques of Hollywood, which I think has been lost lately. I mean, I think you've had a real division between independent filmmakers doing their own sort of esoteric things, and you've had Hollywood, mainstream filmmaking that's been getting increasingly far afield into just fluff and just mechanical movie making that has no sense of urgency or no real feeling or compassion or point of view to it. And I feel that what's being nurtured here is an attempt to bring those together, and to be able to better, for the independents to better express their vision, but at the same time, maybe bring a little more heart to Hollywood.
It is not an anti-Hollywood position that I have. It is just simply that most of my life has been geared around the word independent, which means you don't have to be against something. It just means you prefer something else. I think Hollywood is perfectly valid. It makes very important and entertaining product that obviously satisfy a large part of the population. What I would worry about for my own industry is that it would ever get narrowed to the point where it cut its options or it cut its ability to maintain quality. And I think that since Hollywood has always been about profit. I mean, that this business of art and film is somewhat nebulous. It's money, it's profit. If art can make money, so be it, wonderful. But finally, the focus and the energies in Hollywood is as a profit center. And there's nothing at all wrong with that, as long as there's an alternative use of film that doesn't have to satisfy some of those same requisites. That's all. In other words, what I'm saying is that I believe in film in its broadest sense.
The industry as yet doesn't know what to do with Sundance product or the Sundance type of budget, or for that matter, the Sundance ethos. And I think that will come about, and I don't think that Sundance as an idea or the Institute itself should be disheartened by the fact that the gap between the industry and itself is still wide enough to be perceptible. That gap's narrowing, and it's only now, to me, a question of time before the industry realizes that it needs Sundance, it needs the films that Sundance supports, and most important of all, it needs the ethos and the type of person that comes out of Sundance.
I will be working on a new draft. I suspect they'll get it to people, which is one of the things Sundance is very good at doing. It opens certain doors that would otherwise not be quite as accessible, sort of like Kafka's Castle, so that the process will move one step closer to what it's designed for, which is to make a movie.
Remember, the word creative in Hollywood is only used by producers and public relations people to describe their work. Writers' work. Directors' work.
A scriptwriter must be subtle, but he must be clear first.
All I can say is write and be prepared for rejection.
Bill Morgan did shoot his screenplay, A Matter of Degrees, and it's now in post-production. He had to use different actors, but the scene on the bridge is included in the final film.